just to see if we can get the shadows off. Now with the flash off is what you see is what you get. When you turn the flash on. Hey everybody, Aaron J. Anderson here. We are going to do a tutorial on how I got this photo here. This photo is from last weekend. Our last photo shoot last weekend was in Old San Juan. And this is my beautiful model, which happens to be my wife. And we're going to create that. If you go to my webpage, you're going to see in the last 4 years, I've been actually doing my color grading or processing on the iPad Pro. This is the 12-inch iPad Pro. All these photos you see have been done. We can go to all these folders actually. Have been done on the iPad. And if you go over to my webpage, you can check those out to see if you think that the iPad is good enough for photo manipulation or processing. So check that out. This is the photo. This is the composition that I liked from the photo. As you can see the environment composition is great. However, we don't have the full street light here, but in this photo we have the full street light, and I like the pose better. So we're going to composite this pose and that street lamp on top of this one. So let's get to that. And in this tutorial we're going to be using Lightroom first, and I always use Lightroom first to do all my raw processing. Affinity Photo is good, however I noticed there is some mushy, it makes some detail mushy sometimes on some of the raw files, and you can't copy your edits over to another photo. So we're gonna always use, or I always use Lightroom to do my raw processing. So if we click down here, this little icon, actually, you know what, let's create a folder first. Let's create an album, I guess they call it, and we're just gonna call that number 1. Just for this tutorial, we're going to open up that folder, and now down in the bottom right we're going to add our photos from camera roll, and we're going to click these 2 photos. This is where I do all my raw edits first, and we're going to start with this photo because this is the important photo for me because of the pose that I like. And what I do first is I'm going to use the Apple Pen, as you can see here in my silhouette, and in order to get the most out of this photo, and you can see the histogram up here as well, we're going to try to maximize that histogram by first going to the exposure, and we're going to bring it all the way up till we just about clip the highlights, and then we can take the highlights and we can basically push those all the way till I see some detail here, and we can increase the shadows quite a bit there. And if we go into color, just so we have an idea of what we're doing here, we're going to increase the vibrance. This is all personal preference. I'm just showing you how I got the final image. That's looking pretty good. If we take these whites, we don't want to go too far with the whites because it looks a little weird. So I'm just going to play with this till I think it looks decent without clipping anything important. That looks pretty good. And if we increase this again, I usually just kind of rock back and forth and find a spot. So let's say that is what I'm looking for. What you could do is in the right hand corner, click on copy settings. And when I do this, I'm going to do the white balance, basic tone. I'm going to do all these. What I'm not going to do is any selective edits, spot removal, or crop, because I don't want those to go to my next photo. I just want all the other settings. So we're going to click on OK. And now if we go over to this photo here, all we have to do is click in the upper right hand corner and paste settings, and boom, we're actually 100% where I want to be. So that looks great. Now we want to render these out and pull these into Affinity Photo. Before we do, just to let you guys know, if we go to effects, there's nothing applied in effects. Whoops. Detail automatically has 40 sharpening, and you can see the radius and detail are at 1.0 and 25, and then color noise reduction is at 25. I don't know if this comes in at default or that's just what I used last. And if we go into optics, now we can put remove chromatic aberration on. That'll take any chromatic purple fringing, which this lens, which is actually, I shot all this on the Sony a7 III with the Sony 24mm to 105mm f4, and this really doesn't have much chromatic aberration in that lens at all anyway, so that's pretty good. If we come down here to the information, we can see that I shot it in RAW, and I shot it at 105mm at 1/60th of a second at f4 at 100 ISO, just to let you guys know on that. What do we want to do now is we want to render these out, and if we click save to camera roll, we hit maximum available. And we got to do the same with this. Save to camera roll, maximum available. So that's basically just like a basic edit on getting my raw photos with the shadows, the highlights, and the vibrance where I want them. We're not going to go into skin touch-ups or anything like that in this tutorial. Let's go over to Affinity Photo. And we're going to click this big button here, and we're going to click on import from photos, and we're going to import the landscape one first, and that would be this one here, because we're going to composite the actual pose that I want. Now what we want to do here is when you bring this in, I have it in my settings to automatically lock that bottom layer. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go place, and we want to place the photo that we're going to put on top. And you just click on the screen, and there it is. What we want to do here is try to line this up as best as possible, so we can come over here and lower the opacity of that layer. Let's close that. And we can just kind of see that everything looks pretty darn good here. We want to make sure we keep that lamp, so I'm going to make sure that I don't go too far, but we're cutting her feet off, so we're going to have to shrink this layer a little bit, maybe even a little bit more, just so we get that lamp in there. And that looks good there. Let's go all the way up with that. Let's close that. Now what we want to do is just start erasing it by clicking this erase button, and I make sure my hardness is all the way soft. We can make this a little bigger here, and now all we do is just start erasing. Whoops, is that... Make sure we're on that photo there. Make sure it's grayed, then you know you're on the photo you want. And we're just going to start erasing this. Whoops, too far, go back. And when you're doing like the erase tool, you want to lift every once in a while, because if you make a mistake and go back by pressing this down here, you're going to go too far back. So we want to make sure that we lift every once in a while. And we want to make this a little smaller. We don't want to erase too much, because then we can start introducing too much and looking double. So that looking pretty good right there. If you haven't ever been there, you wouldn't know any other reason. Let's see if we can, we went a little too far on that. Come over here, and I'm just basically I'm erasing, so it kind of looks like it's been connected, and that looks pretty darn good. Now I did go too far on this portion up here, so that looks pretty good. Let's do this corner here, so we're gonna erase. Kind of go slow right there. You can see that we made a couple mistakes there. And what we can do now is if we go ahead here and go flatten, it's going to flatten those into one layer. And now what we can do is go into the in painting brush, and we can fix a couple of these areas here that we made a mistake on. Just like that. There. And we'll take some of these cracks out because they are the same. They're doubled, so we don't want that to stand out in the photo. And that looks pretty good. This section here. So it's looking pretty good so far. Now I don't know how this lamp here, I should have, since this is background blur, we're not going to have a problem getting rid of that. So no one would notice the difference there. Anything else? Nope. Now the other thing I did, oh, and this is part of my equipment right here. So we want to take that out. And then this is actually part of the umbrella here. Now this could be a issue. I fixed it in the original. I don't know how much time I want to put in this, but let's delete that. You can see it does a pretty good job. We want to get rid of that because it's mirroring that. And we want to get rid of that because it's mirroring that. And that little piece. And that looks pretty darn good. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go back. So far you see we got the lamp back, we got the pose we want. We want to delete these people down here as well and also take care of the shadow. So let's first take care of these people. Now, when you're doing this in painting brush, you want to do a little bit at a time. So let's get rid of his head first. And let's get rid of his arm. Now let's get rid of his body. And what the cool thing is, because this is a blurry background, we can just go as much as we want on this. And his foot. That foot. This person right here, we're going to delete that part of his body there. And that whole part. So once you get some of this down, what you can then do, if you want to spend more time on this, come over here to the clone stamp. And if we clone stamp by pressing and holding that, we can start clone stamping the rest of his body out. Press and hold. Press and hold. Whoops. And I just keep doing this till we get a nice clean slate. Like so. And now this part here, if we clone stamp this, this might be a little trickier to do it this way. And we'll just redo the road here. And you could put as much time as you want in this. I don't know how far I'm going to go with this. But you could see how I'm basically taking them out of that. If you want to go to the in painting, this can be actually probably work pretty good down in here. That went too much. So if we make this smaller, we can get rid of some of this work that you can see. But literally, I mean, nobody's going to know what this is down here, so we can just be done with that. Something like that. You spend more time on that. You can see it there. We can smudge it up later. But you can get the idea now. To get rid of the shadow, I use this in painting brush. And I basically just went over the edge. And that'll break up the edge a little bit. Just like that. And then I went ahead and I did the clone stamp. And oops, we want to put the opacity down. And I basically went around here to get rid of the harshness of that shadow. Something like that. You always want to click nearby where you want to do it so the color matches and the brightness. So we'll click on that. And basically this is how I did it, just kept going around until it got cleaned up pretty nice. And since this is the same, we went down here. something like that. I won't keep going because it's going to be the same thing, but you can see how we're getting really close to the original. And that's basically it, guys. So that's how I composited those two over using Affinity Photo. Now when you want to get rid of all, when you want to render this out, you basically, we're not doing any skin touch-ups on this video, but you want to come over here to that little looks like an SD card, click on export, and now when you export from here, you can export from, you know, a TIFF, a PNG. If you want to do any of those other ones, we're just going to do a JPEG. Now you want to click on share. If you click on OK, it's going to take you to the file system. Well, we want to go to share, and then you want to go to save image, and that's it. So let's go out of here. Whoops. So this is what we just did. So it looks pretty good. After I do this, then I'll go in and do all my skin touching and dodging and burning and all that stuff, which we'll do in another video. If you have any questions, let me know. Leave some comments, and please give me some subscribes. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.